Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Mate, it is...
No.
What?
We know.
Oh.
We all know. We know we're British and we talk about the weather, but you don't have to say. Because I'm sitting here feeling the same. Yeah.
Honestly, though, isn't it? I mean...
It is. It's bloody hot, mate.
No, you're absolutely right. We shouldn't do it. I mean, we've talked about it lots, and yes,
absolutely.
And whatever. But anyway, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm hot, but I'm feeling chilled because I've had a nice, quiet week. It's been hectic up to now.
You've done it as well. Look.
What have I done?
So, but I guess people probably don't know this. You know this. I used to work for the ambulance service, and we used to have a rule where you could not say the Q word.
All right. Oh,
because
got you.
If we were having, so I used to work in control where the sort of emergency calls come in and we dispatched ambulances and whatever. But you weren't allowed to say Q, because if you went, oh, we're having a Q night, you could guarantee that the phones would suddenly go blah, and we'd have millions of calls and everything would be mental. So we weren't allowed to say Q. So if you say Q, you jinx things, which you've kind of done. But anyway, go on, carry on. So you've had a Q week, have you?
I've had a Q week. It's been nice. Planning a few things, doing a little bit of admin and stuff. Spent some time with my mum, which has been nice. Spent some time with Verona at home, which is nice. So yeah, but it'll probably all kick off again now I've said the Q word. But you how was your? Have you had a Q week or
no? Simple answer.
Non-Q.
I've had a great week, and it's certainly not finished. I've got 2 or 3 events coming up this weekend, like
brilliant
to start. So very, very busy. But no, it's been fabulous. So I had quite a big casting, so fingers crossed on that, as well as sort of submitting some self-tapes. So yeah, hopeful on all those. But I managed to tie in a great catch-up with a very, very talented friend of ours, who actually, for long-term listeners and viewers of the podcast, may recognise the name, Mr. Callan Durrant. Yeah, so I was in his neck of the woods and managed to find time to catch up with him.
That's nice.
And
that's
he,
good.
for people that may recognise the name, or even if you don't, he is artistic director of Reflex Theatre, a fabulous theatre company who produce theatre and education shows and do corporate work and educational stuff based around neurodiversity, I think is the correct term for it that he's used before, and things, important subject matter that needs to be taken to schools or to the general public or to companies to help them grow, progress and learn, and to educate and create awareness, essentially. So he does fabulous things. So I managed to catch up with him, which was great. He's got some really cool stuff in the pipeline. So we'll have to get back on, actually. We'll get back
absolutely on
some of the stuff and the progression that's going on. And I'm hoping that I'll get to work with him again in the near future with some of the stuff he's got coming up. I've worked with him a couple of times before. So yeah, aside from that, as said, big casting, some rehearsals, some preparation, some script learning. Yeah, just certainly not a Q week for me, and yeah, so, but it's been good. I'm very much enjoying being busy and being able to do everything that I like to do, and to have the variety actually as well. And variety is a good subject, or a good thing to mention, because today we are treating all you lovely listeners and viewers out there to another fabulous guest.
Yeah.
An old friend of yours, and I mean that in multiple senses of the word. Old friend and old colleague. But as I said, versatility and variety, something that he knows all about.
Well, I've known this gentleman for many a long year. We have worked together in many circumstances on many plays. He's directed me, he's produced me strange way of putting it. He's been my producer. I've directed him. And recently we worked together at Brighton Open Air Theatre doing The Lady Killers. So I'm sure he'll have lots of stuff to talk about. In fact, we don't need to wait. He's sitting there expectantly. He's always had fairly good timing. So his timing's been pretty good because he's waiting for us now. Shall we let him in? Ladies and gentlemen, I say an old, dear, very talented friend of mine, Mr. Patric Kearns. Here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, my very dear, good, long-standing friend, Mr. Patric Kearns, has joined us.
Hello. Hello. Long-standing friend.
Yeah. Yeah, he's always just off to the left. Always just off to the left.
He couldn't make it, so I'm like your late replacement.
Just come off the subs bench.
It is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Despite knowing Drew, you've decided that you will grace us with your
I know.
So we're very
I know. I'm a bit nervous about about my past with Drew, or Droodles as I call him.
Yes.
Droodles.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Droodles.
I mean, we've got off to a great start. But before we get into Droodles, which is I mean, my day.
You're never going to let me forget that, Sam, are you? No.
Absolutely.
I get the feeling Drew might be regretting this.
This could come back to bite me on the arse, but let's take a chance. Yeah.
So before we descend into to picking Drew apart, because that's one of my favourite pastimes, Patric, would you do me the honour and all our lovely watchers and listeners of just giving us a little bit more info about who you are and what you do, please?
I'm Patric Kearns. That's not my real name. That will come back later because Patric's my middle name. My real name is Ian, but I've been known as Patric for a long time. And I'm an actor. And I'm a director, and I do a bit of producing. And with my wife, we run Stagecoach Haywards Heath and Stagecoach Lewis now as well. And I'm in my mid-30s.
So for anyone not on YouTube currently, that is not a lie in the slightest. It's absolutely genuine, and we promise you that if you were to look on YouTube, that would be confirmed by the vision we have in front of us.
That's right, yes. I am. Well, all right then, I'll admit I'm actually late 50s, but most people say mid-30s.
I'm just trying to say, what is that?
If you say wait, then there's going to be trouble.
Yeah. Oh, is it playing age or simply, fantasy age, isn't it?
I'm a very, very sprightly 58-year-old.
God, sprightly is never a word I've associated with you, Patric, but we'll play with that. We'll go with that.
That word has never been used in any review of me, I don't think.
Oh God, there have been some adjectives used as well, but we'll deal with that.
But not words that we can use on here.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll see what level we hit at some point. We try and keep it clean-ish, but we don't mind the odd expletive. But we'll have to fill us in on just how many have been used in reviews of you. But so a man of many talents, it's fair to say. Where did it all start, though? Did it start as an actor? Was that where you wanted to go with your career, or was that a lucky accident?
No. When I was 16, I applied to be in the Royal Air Force, but I failed the medical.
Right.
With my heart, because I haven't got one. It's a very complicated story. But basically, I wasn't allowed to join. Not only was I not allowed to be a pilot, I wasn't even allowed to join the catering division.
Right. Okay.
So that ended that. Then I went to university, where I did a degree in pure mathematics, and but I'd always done a lot of drama at school. I did a drama O level, and I did a lot of student drama, and so it came from there. Really, I never actually went to drama school. Don't say it, Drew. I did get a place at Mount View, but I didn't go because it was too expensive. So Was
that in the catering department at Mount View?
Yes, it should have been. Yes, I'd have been in the vegetable section.
That's the one.
Oh,
No, I never went to drama school, and I've just although I did live in a flat above the Webber Douglas Studio Theatre, which I believe is where Droodles went.
Yeah, I went to Weber.
That's the closest I ever came to go to drama school. I lived in the flat above their theatre.
wow.
Was that Drayton Court?
Yeah, my sister
Yeah.
used to threaten the Drayton Arms.
Drayton Arms, rather. Yeah.
My sister, and her then husband ran it, and I used to work there. And my shift used to start at 7 o'clock, so I was always walking down the stairs just as the actresses were all getting changed for the show.
Was there any request on your behalf, or was that just a happy accident there, Patrick?
That was just a happy accident. There was one actress in particular who I think I caught every time I went down. She would be in her underwear just as I walked through, which she didn't consider it to be a coincidence, but I assure you it was.
You've always had fairly good timing, Patrick. It has to be said, you know.
Yeah, and no, she doesn't still keep in touch.
Just the children, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the closest I ever went to drama school.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I didn't go to drama school either. So it turns out that Drew's the odd one out today.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can I tell you? What can I tell you?
So I've got a degree in mathematics, which is probably quite unusual for an actor. I don't know.
Yeah, I know you've got a degree in mathematics. Did you ever? I mean, apart from doing your tax returns, do you ever use it? I mean, no. Well, all my other questions are now null and void. Right, moving on.
So a friend of mine describes me as having a degree in adding up.
Well, yeah, I kind of, it's interesting because was thinking of a title for today's episode. I did jot down. It's true. I put down "It All Adds Up," and I thought, well, adds up. I can't use that now.
Very clever.
Yeah. See what we're not going to use that one now. We can come up with something else, something better.
Well, when I was at university, it became very, very, very pure. And I remember going to a lecture and the guy proved that naught was less than 1. And at that point, I kind of gave up.
Brilliant.
I didn't feel like I needed to know that.
No,
there's a lot of philosophy attached to maths, isn't there? I mean, we'll get off this in a minute and get interesting, but there's a lot of philosophy and deep thinking.
I'm doing it down. Some of the stuff we did was actually really, really interesting. Like I remember doing a whole section on codes, and that was very interesting. And when you did things like case studies, where you actually did apply the maths to a real life scenarios, then that is quite interesting.
Which is what kids have always been asking since they started doing algebra when they're 13. Yeah. Will I ever use this in real life? So you got to wait until you're 20 odd to apply. Brilliant.
Yeah. So I mean, there is stuff that we did that is really interesting, but a lot of it was a bit too pure for me.
Right. Okay.
So So and also there were other distractions at university, like the theatre, the Tenpin bowling alley, the Union Bar, those kind of things. Kind of like you end up going to those instead of going to your lectures.
So when did you leap into acting then? When did that happen?
1842. No,
Drew was in his mid-30s back then. So.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 1986. And I went to the very first thing I ever did. I left university, and 3 days later, I rehearsed a play in Manchester, which is Arnold Wesker's The Merchant, which is a rewriting of The Merchant of Venice from Shylock's point of view. And there were some quite interesting people in that because, that's 37 years ago. And in that cast were Tom Butcher, who was in the bill, who Drew knows.
Yeah.
I suppose the most well-known person in that cast is Tracy Ann Oberman.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. She played Jessica. So she's probably been the most successful, along with Tom. And I think the only other person that's still doing it is an actor called Mark Heel. I think the four of us are the only people still doing it from that production.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we've known each other for 20 odd years.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably about that. About turn of the millennium, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. It was around about time, wasn't it? Yeah, because we first worked together with Nottingham at
Colin
Colin
McIntyre. Yeah.
Colin McIntyre's Thriller season. So yeah. So
Yeah.
that, and with your lovely wife Jane Shakespeare as well, we worked together there. It was our first incarnation. That was weekly rep.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that.
Yeah. So yeah, so we both haven't we? But,
yeah.
Yes,
and Drew and I, Sam, stayed in an area called the Park, which I think is the only private. It's something about it in Nottingham. That's also where I was at university. So I know, and the Park is a private estate, and it's to get to it as a pedestrian, you have to walk through this incredibly pitch black tunnel, which it used to be for the old horses, I think.
Yeah, horse-drawn carriages. Yeah.
Yeah, and we walked back, Drew and I, once, and I ate my chips, but Drew was saving his kebab for when he got back to the digs. But he was a little bit merry, I believe, Droodles.
I think it's right in saying I probably was a bit,
I think we both were. And when we got to this tunnel, Drew started to eat his kebab. And I said, well, hang on a minute, Drew. You said, you're going to eat that when you got back to your digs. And with just, perfect logical explanation, he said, oh, yeah, I know. But if I'm going to be mugged in this tunnel, they're not having my kebab.
Oh, priorities. Oh, that's just fabulous.
I think I made you stand there for 5 minutes while I ate my kebab before we wandered through.
Yeah. Why anybody would want your dirty kebab, I have no idea.
Well, they never got it.
But your drunken logic was perfect.
Yeah. How superb.
Yeah.
So as I said a few minutes ago, like quite a variety of talents or avenues that you've gone down. But you mentioned specifically Stagecoach, which obviously now is a massive, massive part of your life.
Yeah.
How did you make the transition from performing? Obviously, you still do, but to then go to a point where you're like, well, actually, what I really want to do is pass this knowledge, this expertise on to others, to younger people that want to take it up, either as a career or as a hobby, something to do alongside what else they do.
Necessity is probably the first word. No, children. We took over the Stagecoach Haywards Heath in 2009, and my eldest daughter was 4, so she started literally as we started. Wow. She was 4 in the August, and we took over in the September, and she started. And it was a kind of conscious decision to mainly for Jane, my wife, because we'd been touring forever, and with children that's just not possible. So it was a way of earning money and paying the mortgage whilst staying in the profession, if you like. And we had friends that had done a similar thing, and they kind of like explained how it all worked. And we took over Haywards Heath. At the time, it had they're called schools. I know that sounds obvious, but at the time, I think we had 2 main schools and 2 earlies, the little ones. And now we've got we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 main schools and 5 earlies, and we've just taken over Stagecoach Lewis as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it?
That's why I look so old. I'm only 24.
Well, I mean, not only have you got your own 2 kids, but you've got everyone else's as well. I mean, Is it? I mean, I've done some teaching for a friend of ours who runs a Stagecoach, and I've dropped in and helped out a couple of Saturdays when they've been short-staffed or whatever. And I mean, it was great fun, but you joke about it, putting years on you, but it is exhausting, isn't it? It's very exacting. It really is.
I would say it's more exhausting for the teachers than it is for us, because Jane is actually the principal, and she's not allowed to teach because she's the principal. I've never been a teacher. Right. I have, because I lived in Greece for a while, and I taught English as a foreign language. But it's not my. It's just not. I'm just not very good at it. And so I've never really. I've done the odd session, but it's not really what I like doing. I'm much more of an administrator and look after the money and that kind of thing. So I would say for the teachers, it is flipping hard work, because to teach for 6 hours on a Saturday, I mean, I'd literally have to have 3 weeks off, I think, if I had to do that.
Yeah, I did it for a friend, and if you get the little ones in the morning, who are quite demanding, and
Quite
then you get
demanding.
well, I'm putting it, I know. Then you get the middle group, and they're quite keen and they're on it, and then you get the cool teenagers at the end of the day, and it's like, oh, have I got enough energy to kind of get, and they know they want to do it. They want to do this, they want to enjoy it, but they're just too cool for school, and particularly if you're the new guy. And then they really gave me a tough time.
Yeah.
Well, we played theatre games. What do you know about Shakespeare? He's like, don't be bastards,
Yeah. No. We had an illness recently of the little ones, 4 to 6 year olds, and their class is an hour and a half. So one of the other teachers taught for an hour. I did half an hour with them, and I have never been so tired in all my life at the end of it. I mean, I was absolutely exhausted to look after, I don't know how many there were, probably about 15 or 16 4 to 6 year olds. I was absolutely knackered.
Yeah. They're interesting.
I take my hat off to the teachers, because, and also some of them, they teach for 6 hours and then they go out at night. I mean, are they completely mad? I mean, I get home and I can barely walk.
Yeah, but Patrick, I mean, whenever you've directed me, we've always had to finish early so you can have a lie down, mate. So,
4 o'clock is snooze time, Drew, as you know.
Yes, I do know.
Have I got this to look forward to in later life? When I?
Oh no, I've done it ever since I was young, I think. Although I've been directed by Drew when Drew was directing and actually nodded off in the rehearsal because we'd been out the night before.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the performances or the subject matter or anything. Right? I was just because I was hungover. But
I can't remember what the play was, but you did actually nod off, which I thought.
I did. Yeah, I can't.
I can't remember the play. I can't remember. It was one of the ones at Nottingham. So
was it Dial M for Murder?
No, I didn't do that there.
No,
I'd have to go. I can't remember. It was one of the
House Guest.
Oh, it might have been. Did you?
I think it might be House Guest.
Yes, I think it might have been.
Because you, I have to say, you played the movie star in that, didn't you, Patrick?
What, Shrek?
Yeah,
I did. Well, that's one of my best ever reviews, Drew.
I know.
Remember, I had to play 2 parts. I had to play the movie star, and I had to play the bad guy and I did it with an alleged Mancunian accent who was his double, like he was a double, whatever you call them.
Yeah,
I had to play 2 parts. And when the review came out, the guy at Nottingham went through the whole cast, how great they were, and the last sentence was, Patric Kearns plays 2 parts. And that was it.
Yeah.
I mean,
nothing if not accurate, Patrick.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
What was the review you had, Drew? That started, was it just said Andrew Fettis is small?
Andrew Fettis is short.
That's all
short,
of them. That's all of them, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it did go on to sort of be reasonably complimentary. But the first line was Andrew Fettis is short, and then after it said but big on talent. But I mean, I didn't want to say that, but something like that.
I was going to say,
I know, but I mean,
that's not a review. That's your Wikipedia page.
Oh dear! Right,
but yeah.
Another break from the ribbing of Drew, as much as
sorry.
Me to,
no, mate. It's what I'm here for. Yeah.
It's why I started this podcast.
He's the only one currently standing.
Do you know? But that's more perfect than you can possibly imagine, Patrick, because I was literally about to ask, and you've created a sort of a segue, and on Drewling Samantics, we do love a segue. But by mentioning standing, I was going to ask you about stand-up, because stand-up is another large part of your career, particularly with a certain style, shall we say. So why don't you elaborate and tell us a bit more about your stand-up career as well?
The most terrifying experiences of my life, stand-up comedy. I was asked, funnily enough, by my ex-girlfriend to do it, because she was doing a charity gig for mental health charities. Her daughter suffers quite badly from anorexia, and I suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder. So she asked me if I would do stand-up comedy, at this charity gig, and I said, "Well, I've never done it before." And she went, "Oh, I thought you had." And I went, "Hang on a minute, whoa, before you."
Didn't
I
say
said,
no.
Yeah, let me think about it. How long would you want me to do? And she said 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Anyway, so I went away and thought about it, and I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And I wrote a 20-minute stand-up on my experience of having OCD, basically, which eventually became a 40-minute thing that I did for the Brighton Fringe. All about my experiences, effectively, of having OCD, which I've had for about 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that in any way? I mean, was it any way cathartic? Did you open up and think, "Is this nothing I didn't realize," or was it just basically saying, "I know I got this, and this is it's shit, and this is how I deal with it"?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was cathartic particularly, but it was quite. I think it's quite good to get it out there. It's like I just think it's quite audiences listen. What I was worried about was that people might think that I was taking the mickey out of people that have OCD and that I don't have it, but obviously that would be ridiculous. So I'm hoping that the majority of people that came realised that I do have OCD, and I was just looking at it from a funny side, if you like. And I told lots of I told some jokes. I told stories that I'd slightly bend. So for example, if it hadn't actually happened to me, it had happened to somebody else, I told it in the first person, as it were.
Yeah.
I guess.
So, for example, I worked with a girl, and she had OCD, and she'd always be late to castings because she would always she'd spend an hour checking the kettle and all the kitchen things that had been turned off. So she'd always be late, no matter how early she started doing that. She'd always leave the house late. So in the end, she would go to the castings and she'd take all her kitchen utensils with her. So she'd have a massive bag with her kettle and her toaster and everything else in the.
Incredible.
I know.
I mean,
so I told that as if it was me, basically.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
It's very true that humor is a fantastic mechanism for dealing with issues, and if you as a person are able to laugh at things that you struggle with in the first instance, it makes others around you more comfortable and more accepting and particularly more understanding. So I think it's a very powerful way of talking about things that perhaps people consider to, and I hate using this phrase, but not be normal, shall we say?
Yeah.
What is not considered to be standard or whatever. So, and you say you were able to create a whole 40-minute skit based all around that, but that just goes to show that how much something like OCD or any kind of condition can really affect your life. But to be able to embrace that and to then go, let's find the funny in it, let's look at it from an outsider's perspective, albeit, as you say, some of the stories weren't necessarily you personally, but people you knew and people who were dealing with the same problems that you were.
Yeah.
To be able to look at it that way, a very, very powerful tool. And obviously very successful people found it very funny because it continues.
Yeah, I was quite, I mean, I was, as I say, the first time I did it, I was terrified. And that never really goes away because you're never quite sure what the audience is going to be like. But much more nervous than anything that I've ever done as an actor. I mean, to some extent, it came to an end mainly because of COVID. And since COVID, I haven't really gone back to it. That's not to say that I wouldn't, but it's almost like something off your bucket list. It was something that I really wanted to do, and I did it, and it wasn't a disaster. It was actually reasonably successful, and I feel like I've done that now.
Quit while you're ahead, mate. Quit while you're ahead. Yeah,
before I get anything thrown at me.
Yeah. I mean, I cannot imagine, and this is a compliment to you as well as pushing the cover. I mean, I can't imagine anything terrifying you because I know you as one of those people that are fearless on stage and have faced all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
But also one of the people, I mean, Sam and I talk about often the joy of just being on stage and doing our job and the sheer joy of it. I don't think I've ever been on stage when I haven't absolutely loved every second of it, because there is a freedom and an exuberance about what you do and how you approach your work. And I've always, I mean, we've been in some terrible plays together. We've been in some really good plays together.
Yeah, I don't remember any of the good ones really.
No, I'm struggling to remember those myself. I'm assured that we have. I wrote it down in a diary somewhere.
Yeah,
but,
there was one.
There was.
No, we
one.
have done so. That's not true. We did 1 Man, 2 Governors. That's a great play.
Yeah, and we did. I mean, this year, I mean, I spoke about on the podcast, Lady Killers in the heat.
Yeah, that was great.
And it's we had a great time in that. So we.
No, you're right. You're right. I don't know why, but I do have that kind of reputation of being somebody that will just go on. I mean, I've done plays. I've taken over in plays with like literally hours' notice, and rehearsed for maybe 3.5 hours, and then just gone on, standing in the wings, thinking I'm not really sure if I know this play, but that doesn't terrify me.
No,
but going on and doing stand-up comedy is a completely different kettle of fish.
I think it's because I mean, I've done a little bit of stand up myself, and it's because you cannot control anything, and you also are so isolated and so on your own, and you are completely dependent on what you get back from the audience.
Yeah, and if it's not funny, it's your fault.
Yeah,
you can't blame anybody else.
No.
Whereas if you do a play and nobody laughs, you can just blame the play.
Or you can stand there and look at somebody on stage and go, "Well, you're shit." Which I think, mind you, I mean, I've stood in the wings with you, having had several days rehearsal, and or even a week's rehearsal, and you've looked at me and gone, "I'm not absolutely sure I know this." So,
yeah, if I probably said that in every play,
quite possibly, yeah.
But yeah, so I suppose I have got that sort of reputation, but stand-up comedy found me out. That was brutal, but it wasn't a disaster. So
cool.
So
and the other thing.
Go on.
Sorry, Sam.
I was going to say, what about the adjustment from performer to producer or director? Because again, as much Drew was going to say the same thing.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. Yeah.
There's obviously both sort of sides of it have an integral part of creating a performance or a set of performances, and at the end of the day, both levels are responsible for creating an outcome that is successful. But you have to approach them in very different ways. Do you prepare differently when you're not part of the cast? You're more on the creative side, or is it kind of you just go at it in the same way, just that you don't happen to have stage time?
I think I'm actually more prepared. Drew might dispute this. I think I'm more prepared as a director and as a producer than I am as an actor, because I think that the thing about being a director or the producer is people can see through you very, very quickly. So if you haven't done your homework with a play, for example, and you're directing it, people can see that very, very quickly. And the same is true with producing. I mean, I used to produce a lot, and that went a bit pear-shaped. We'll just smooth over that. Edit that bit out. But now I only produce on a very low key level. But I try to be as prepared as possible as both a producer and a director, much more so than I would necessarily be as an actor.
I mean, I was when I'm working with you as a producer and a director. I mean, I do trust you, which is,
really.
Some people would say that's a ridiculous thing to do, but I mean, there has never been,
I had you lying in a moat recently.
Yeah, you had me laying in a moat in the dark and cold, being eaten by mosquitoes. The matinee 30 degrees, heat, and in the evening it was bloody freezing. So I don't know why. Yeah,
I had to do it as well.
Well, I know you did. Yeah. I was down there for the least amount of time. There was one actor who was there for about 25 minutes. So I'm not so sure he'll ever
down there, as far as I know.
He got comfortable in the end, but there was one. Do you remember that occasion we were working in Nottingham? The director will remain nameless, but we were being directed, and there was at one point.
I know what you're going to say.
He was found out, and can you remember?
Well, yeah, because he actually opened. He will remain nameless, but his opening line, I think, in the rehearsal period, was the first thing he said to us was, "I haven't read this play for 6 months." And I mean, that is the worst thing I think any director has ever said to me, because immediately I just thought, well, in that case, you have no idea what you're talking about, because if you haven't, I mean, if you haven't read the play for 6 months, you can't possibly remember any of it. As Drew says, we saw straight through him, and yeah, no comment.
There was just one wonderful moment where the director he just said something ridiculous.
Oh no, I know what you're going to say.
And then Patric, as cool as he could, just turned around and went, well, at least I've read the play. And it was one of the most cutting things. And we all just stood there going, oh, but we're all like, actually, yeah, because the guy's a twat. So,
Yeah. No, you can't turn up to a rehearsal as a director and not have read the play within the last 6 months.
No.
That's insanity. And then expect your cast to take on board anything that you say about the play. So,
well, how can you possibly expect people to commit to something when you clearly haven't shown that commitment yourself?
And actors, as you both know, actors are opinionated people, and so they will come into the rehearsal with very strong ideas about things, and you've got to be able to defend your, quite often you come up with an idea, and some of the actors will say, "Oh no, that's a shit idea, Pat." Sometimes you have to go, do you know what? Actually, you're right. It's a shit idea. Other times you just have to say, well, look, on this one, and I think I did it in The Lady Killers with the sunglasses, Drew. I said, I am going to rank on that and say, we are doing it with the sunglasses. And I still think I was right.
Well, you were proved right about laying in the moat as well. So, I mean, that was described as genius, wasn't it?
I think the review, the word, I can't remember. I mean, I vaguely remember the word inspired being used in the review, Drew.
Yeah.
I think that was the word.
I think that was it. Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, again, it was a great show, and we had good fun. And there were moments of digging each other out of the shit because we probably, but there is joy in doing what we do. And
I think weekly rep that basically that's the training that gives you, and open air theatre is quite similar in as much as that there are a lot of external things going on that can affect you in open air theatre. So you can have pigeons landing on the stage. I mean, a seagull shat on my head once, not actually in performance, I have to say, and he was just a critic.
I was about to...
There we are.
Yeah, no, open air theatre is there's something about it that is things can, and the audience know that. But I think that weekly rep thing where it's not long enough to rehearse. We all know that, and consequently things do occasionally go wrong, and you need a team of actors who are capable and you come up. We worked with a few that just couldn't do it. That couldn't cope with that kind of going on stage having only had such a short rehearsal period.
Yeah,
it is a massive skill, and mentioning skills, we've established that while you have all these different avenues, Pat, that you've gone down and all these different things that you take pleasure in doing, the thing that sort of is the resounding feeling is the pleasure you have for everything you do. And whether it's terrifying being that stand-up, the odd stand-up gig, or whether it's working with fellow actors that you get the joy from, that radiates from you. And I can understand why Drew talks so highly of working with you, and I can only hope that I get the opportunity to in future.
I do.
But what I'm going to ask, because we could go on like this forever, and I would love to hear lots more stories about Drew being absolutely useless or drunk or both. But
no, he's marvelous. He's wonderful to. I love working with Droodles.
Droodles is staying. It's great.
Checks in the post, mate.
Yeah. To finish us off, Pat, could you please give us an anecdote or a story? Now, obviously, we've heard a few already, but you must have something that is particularly special, memorable, momentous, something that we can leave our listeners and viewers just...
It's going to be about... I'm going to tell... Drew's probably heard this story 100 times. It's because it focuses on my mum. And neither of my parents are still alive. But as I may have said at the beginning, my real name is Ian. Patric is my middle name. And my wife and I were staying with my parents some time ago. It was Sunday morning. My mum brought in a cup of tea, and I was just feeling, a bit silly, a bit jokey. So I told my mum a very old joke. It's a very old joke, and it is what's got two thumbs, speaks French, and makes love like a tiger. She said, I don't know. And I said, moi. It's an old joke, Sam. Yeah. Anyway, that was in the morning. We had lunch there. We got to tea. It's tea time. We're having tea. And my mum suddenly says to my dad, oh, John, I've got a joke. What's got two thumbs, speaks French, and makes love like a tiger? And my dad said, I don't know. What's got two thumbs, speaks French, and makes love like a tiger? And my mum said, Ian. I mean,
I love that. I have heard that many times, and it's
Ian. That is a true story. My wife, I thought, was going to have to go to hospital, and my dad just sat there and went, I don't think I get that.
Wow.
I remember telling that story to a writer, and he said that is perfect for a play because you put the first part in stage one, in act one, and then you forget about it. Everyone forgets about it, and then in act two it comes back, and that's the punch. It's just perfect for a play.
Yeah, it's beautiful,
and it comes from a true story.
Wow! You just need to write the other hour and a half to go around it. You've got like 20 seconds in the first act and the second act. It's just the rest of it that could be.
I'm not sure what I'm going to go. Yeah, well, I don't know what I'm going to call it.
French Tigers or something. But
yeah,
Pat, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting.
I've loved it.
Thank you so much for joining us. All the best, obviously, with both sets of stage coaches. Doing incredible things. As of course are your teachers who are doing the real work. Not that we'd say that, of course.
No, they are. Yeah, they don't tell them that though, for goodness. Otherwise, they'll want to raise.
We'll edit that bit out as well, don't we? But yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully, we'll get the opportunity to see you in something else very soon, and go back to stand up because we know people are going to want to see that.
Oh, I don't know.
I'd pay good money, mate. I'll come and see you.
We're going to pay money. I'll definitely do it.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us. As Sam said, it's been a joy, and we say it to a lot of people, but I really mean this. Come back, do it again,
definitely,
because I know there are thousands. There are thousands of stories. With
the name sounds Spanish. Yeah, it's my favorite line that Drew ever said. Name sounds Spanish.
And quoted at me a lot from you, But mate, thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, the next time you must bring your delightful, beautiful, very talented wife with you.
Well, I won't bring her. I'll bring Jane.
Okay.
All right, bring Jane. Yeah.
Quick, we better let him go because he's about to be attacked now by his wife.
He's just got to sort the divorce papers out. But yeah, we're fine.
But thank you so
much, mate.
Cheers. All right, then. Take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Do you know what, Drew? I just so many things rolled into one. He is an advocate for children and young people learning the art of performance. He is a stunningly talented actor, an incredibly funny, friendly bloke, and he speaks French and makes love like a tiger. I mean, what more could you possibly want from a guest? The incredible Mr. Patric Kearns. What a pleasure it was having him on the show. Really, really.
Well, I have to say, I mean, as I said, several times. I mean, I've known him many years. I mean, I didn't know that he spoke French or made love like a tiger. That was never in evidence. No, I mean, the wonderful thing about Patric is we got from that. He loves what he does, and it is always a joy to do it with him. It's always been a joy to work with him. And I'm so glad he came on. And we've said it before. I'll say it again. But I've got to get him back because he has an encyclopedic mind for anecdotes. And we will start a rehearsal process, rehearsal day, and there will be 20 minutes of anecdotes from all around the room, and he will save those and remember those. And he will tell it against you or against himself at some point. So, yeah, a mine of stories. But he is one, I have to say, I don't know if I said it, but he's one of the finest fast performers I've ever worked with. He really is a great performer. But one of those fearless, if it's funny, do it, and something will happen. So yeah, he's a joy to have on. So
and also to be able to encompass what would be considered as an issue, a personal problem, his OCD, to then use that in part of his work, and to, I was going to say make light of it. I don't mean that in a negative way, like it's sort of belittling it, but to, as I said earlier, to find the funny in it, to find the humor in something that causes you problems or makes life slightly more difficult. To be able to do that is a wonderful way of dealing with it, and then to bring it out into the open and perhaps give it a bit more airtime to help people become aware of it, even if it is with that funny tinge to it, to show it that way. But massively important, and another massive hat tip, kudos to him for being able to do that. And I mean, regardless of the fact that he says he's terrified every time he does stand up, just you can see he was a joy to have on, and highly entertaining and funny just in the half an hour or so that we've been able to chat to him. So
he is a lovely guy, and it's been a joy to have him join us for another week.
And are you, Drew, going to be enjoying another few week coming up?
Now, you see, you put the kibosh on it now, haven't you? Because no, I don't have another few week coming up. Actually, things are going to get a little bit busier, which is nice. I'm not complaining.
Of course.
But, it's actually been nice this past week because we've enjoyed the sun and to have a little bit of downtime. But no, I'm going to be busier. I've got a couple of events coming up, some rehearsals. So yeah, it's a nice week. And if the temperature drops a little bit, I shan't be sorry. But, and I know you are enormously rushed off your feet.
Yeah, well, so this week has been mental, as I mentioned earlier, and I've got more of that coming up. And actually, I'm hoping that I'm going to be even busier because obviously awaiting the outcome of those couple of castings and things. So keeping everything crossed. It is that sort of, I say catch-22, but I mean it in the nicest way possible. When you're busy, you go, oh, it'd be nice to have room to breathe. But then when you're sat twiddling your thumbs, you go, I just want to be out there doing it. And,
you're bored. Yeah.
And gun to my head, not that it would need it. I know which one I prefer, really.
Absolutely, mate.
I'd rather not have time to take a breath, but be doing what I love best, regardless. So, but, so here's a toast to being busy.
To being busy.
To dealing with problems, whether they be a nice problem to have or not, in the best way possible. And, of course, to making love like a tiger.
What can you say?
Cheers all. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again.
Cheers, everyone.
Brilliant. And Drew, I'll see you next week, mate.
Take care, mate.
Cheers. Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.